This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Today, we're finally turning this space that looks like a construction site into something that at least a bit closer resembles a living room. For the better part of a year now, we've been completely renovating this entire apartment. We've torn everything down to bits and built it slowly back up. Last week we finished all the drywall, made everything look nice and prepared everything for paint. And that's exactly what we're gonna do today. And I'm actually really excited for this because for the first time I'm gonna use one of these spray guns to spray paint onto the walls instead of having to roll it. Never done that before, so God knows how that's gonna go. Now, the first thing that we'll have to do is mask off everything. Since we're spraying the paint, there's gonna be a lot of overspray, so we have to cover off everything from the windows, the door openings, and electrical outlets, all that stuff. That was one window. This is gonna take a bit of time. Okay, so now as I'm sort of trying to tape a dust-proof door and a little plastic to the door opening here, is this a bit overkill? Well, I've never experienced firsthand how much overspray there is with an airless system. I don't think there is too much, but I don't want to get into a situation where I've started spraying and then realized that I haven't masked off enough. So for this first time, I'm taping everything. Now I guess the same thing can be said for me taping all of these light fixtures. And yeah, by the way, these massive holes are light fixtures for the really cool lamps that we'll install. In this case, I'm just a bit worried that the pressure from the paint that's gonna be squirted out is gonna push a bunch of dirt out through this hole and then get stuck in the paint itself. There. Oh yeah, and good thing that I don't have a whole bunch of these. We're mostly taped off. The last little bit that remains is this brick wall. Obviously, we don't want paint on this thing, but what we do want is some tape in behind here so that the overspray doesn't end up getting on these bricks. Now, before we start painting, there's actually one more thing that we need to do, and that is add some caulking. We're gonna do that where the brick meets the drywall, around the windows, and a few other places, so that we get a nice sharp transition between the rough wall and the smooth ceiling. Also, doesn't this brick wall just look absolutely amazing? I mean, this is what the thing looked like when we started this project. Actually, this wall was covered in a full layer of mortar, and Vilde here had to literally chisel out all the little gaps in between here and refill them with mortar, which, I don't know, took days, weeks. It was a lot of work.
Weeks, yeah.
Weeks. For some reason she liked it, doing this day in and day out. She even sanded all the tops of the super dirty bricks that are now like super smooth and even, and if it weren't for all the like humps and bumps and imperfections in the bricks, it basically looks like a brand new brick wall. We even kept small little details like the pieces of wood that they'd used previously to attach the walls and nail them into. And one more thing, just look at this. Some of these bricks have like fingerprints from where the clay was still soft, and they moved the bricks before they fired them. And there's even one right there. There's even one with an impression of like a piece of grain or a rope or something like that. And I think that one with the piece of grain used to be like way up there behind what is now the wall that Vilde had to dig out of the way up there and re-put it in down there. Great work.
Thank you.
Now it's time to cover all this up with plastic so none of it gets paint on it. Sounds like a job, Rudy.
Better not do. Better not get any paint on this one.
We've done as much as we can. Everything is taped off. It's probably pretty overkill with the amount that we've taped. But like I said earlier, never done this before, so better safe than sorry. Now I said that we're gonna spray paint the walls. And to do that, we're gonna use this thing. This awesome looking thing is a paint sprayer that was kindly sent to me by Wagner. This particular model is a PS 3.2. And with this thing, the job should be pretty easy. All right, we've built pressure. This is a spray gun. I think I got everything assembled correctly. As you can see, Why does it make that? So I'm trying to get rid of these two lines on the sides. And I thought that was just gonna be increasing pressure. It is! Okay, enough testing. Ah. Well, it's now actually the day after. Yesterday we started painting at around midnight, which the neighbors weren't exactly super happy about. But look at this, we've got a white wall. There's some minor imperfections here and there, which I think mostly is due to the prep, not the sprayer itself. The sprayer is loaded up and everything is looking good. Let's see how long it takes us to paint this room.
All right. This is fun!
And now all that's left is the ceiling.
How about this? Oh, part of the fire. Woo!
45 minutes, the whole thing. Good thing I was wearing a mask. Everything is dry, it's the day after, and I'm prepped for the next layer. Now, all in all, I'm really happy with how all this turned out. There were only a few small spots, a couple that I had to sand down because I hadn't sanded enough on the filler. There was one spot in the ceiling. One of the joints between the two boards of drywall wasn't filled properly, so there was a visible line. I filled that, sanded it, everything is nice and smooth. Other than that, few minor bubbles here and there that I've all filled and sanded over. And one time in the corner here, down there, I hadn't quite masked up enough, so the sprayer rolled up some dirt that got stuck in the paint, so I had to sand that flat and smooth again. Now, other than that, I've gone over all the walls and just sanded them super quickly to get any sort of nibs off. Those little rough spots and nibs, I think, are from where we sanded the drywall paper a bit too much. So it'll be interesting to see if that shows up again once we now go to applying color. Right, everything is loaded up, the new paint is in here. By the way, switching paint and cleaning the thing was pretty easy. One of the tubes sucks in the paint and the other one spits it back out. So just put the one that sucks in paint into a bucket of water, let that run through. Do that a couple of times and the thing is clean. Three minutes flat to that wall.
Now the worst part.
That room in there is definitely by far the hardest, especially with this long thing attached. "36 minutes, everything. Let's just hope it turns out alright when it dries. Look at this, everything is one color. This is just the first coat. I just forgot to paint that little section. But regardless, doesn't this look great? Well, this is actually only just the first coat. We've got one coat left to cover everything and to cover up the little mishaps that I forgot to spray. But here's the thing, so far I've just sprayed and done nothing else. Now there's two schools of thought on this. Either you do exactly what I did now, which is just spray and leave it, or you first spray and then you roll over the entire wall to give it a little bit of texture, just to hide some of the small minor imperfections. Now, yesterday I was at Dure and I happened to run into Göran, which is their in-house expert on paint and surface finish, and he's a professional painter. And he's agreed to come over here and help me out and try and figure out what's the benefits, weaknesses. Oh, and just to try and give you a little bit of an understanding of what we're trying to sort of hide with the texture. On the wall here, there are some super light scratches and there's a little bump in the wall, as opposed to over here, where it's just perfect and smooth. We'll see how that translates once we paint and roll. But first, I have to quickly run over to my workshop, which I bet you haven't seen in a while, to tell you about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. So when I'm not renovating old apartments like I'm currently doing, I usually make and design stuff in this workshop. Things like pieces of furniture or 3D printed boxes. And I sell the build plans and 3D files for these on my website, which I created using Squarespace. Squarespace enabled me to super quickly and easily create my own website. It's really easy to set up. You don't need to have any technical knowledge. Just choose from any other award-winning templates and get started creating your own website right away. And if you sell digital goods, you can even offer on-site pickup, either that's through your own store or at a fair or a market. You can now even create pro-level videos effortlessly. The Squarespace Video Studio app helps you make and share engaging videos to share your story, grow your audience, and drive sales. You can also buy your domains directly through Squarespace. They have tons of different ones to choose from, everything from .com and .net to more fun and cool ones like the one I have, which is alch.shop. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/alch for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Right, the boys who have left, that was super helpful. We're done with those walls. We've got a few walls left, so let's see if I can do that myself. Spray, put it down, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll. Isn't that what I say? Okay, so basically the trick is to first apply a relatively even amount of paint to the wall. Right, for a little reference, let's see how long it takes me to paint this wall. That's 2.5 minutes to paint the wall. And an additional 3 minutes to roll the wall. So, yeah, it does take a little bit longer. Really excited to see what it turns out like. Just the last terrible room left. See, now that's the benefit. I touched the wall and made a little mark. I can roll it out.
All right.
We'll see how that turns out. Woo! Go for it! Woo! Right, and now one last thing, and the reason why we didn't paint this wall. Because most of the apartment did actually look pretty good. Sure, there were some small minor imperfections, but overall we've done a decent enough job at the drywall work, the filling, and the sanding so that everything could be painted. But this wall just wasn't good enough. It also doesn't help that this is the most important wall because the light will come directly at a really shallow angle in through that window. When I realized that the first two coats didn't quite cover this gap enough, so there was a little recess here, and I went back and added more drywall mud with the roller and smoothed it out with one of those big spatula thingies, which wasn't necessarily a bad idea. I just added way too much mud and didn't smooth it out enough, and also didn't sand it enough. So I was left with this big bump that you can actually feel. So we'll just have to do a little repair. The thing we'll do is that we'll apply some more mud on each side of the gap here to make the bump a lot bigger and a lot more even. Then we'll sand everything, try and get everything as smooth as possible, repaint the wall. This time we'll just roll it, a couple of coats, and we're good to go. Guys, check it out. Everything is painted. The window frames look amazing without the trim. Really happy with those. Also really happy with the way everything else came out, especially the transitions between the brick walls and the brick walls in the corner. I'm actually quite happy with the way that we chose to follow the bricks, not all the way against it. Made it much easier to get a nice and clean line here. Also, all the light fixtures, both in the walls and the ceiling, are all perfect. I am really looking forward to when we get those lights installed. But now let's have a quick chat about what went on when we sprayed and then decided to roll everything. Because when the guys from Dury were here, we were back and forth about what the benefits and weaknesses are with either one of the options. And quickly summarized, obviously benefit of just spraying everything is that it's super quick, and if you manage to apply the right amount of paint and don't get any imperfections, the surface finish looks really nice. I really liked the way that looked. But then the problem with that sprayed finish is that if you get any nicks or imperfections that you want to fix later on, it's going to be really hard to try and match that sprayed finish with just a little patch in the middle of a wall, let's say. Also, really minor imperfections like sanding marks and those sort of things do show a little bit better with the sprayed finish. As opposed to when we rolled it, a lot of those really small things disappeared. Now with the rolled finish, you get a slight texture. Now that texture also depends on how much paint you apply to the wall, how long the bristles on the brush are, and how much you work it into the wall. So unless you know exactly what you're doing, matching a little patch is again gonna be a bit harder. Now obviously the rolled finish is also easier to do in smaller sections, like I had to do with that last wall, or if you brush up against the wall as you're doing it, you can always just come back, roll a little bit and fix that bump right there, like I did in the hallway when I painted that, instead of having to whip out the sprayer and deal with the whole process of setting that up and having to clean it afterwards. Now, what do I think is the best solution? Well, in reality, the probably most practical solution is to back roll everything. That means spray everything first and then back roll it. It does add a bit of time and you do get a slight texture, but all in all, being able to hide the minor scratches and imperfections together with being able to patch it and easier to match the surface finish later on is probably worth it. Now, that being said, I did actually prefer the finish that the sprayer left, because it just left a really nice and flat and smooth and perfect surface that I haven't really seen anywhere else before, at least not here in Norway, and it made the walls sort of pop a little bit more. Now, unfortunately, to be able to achieve that, you'd also have to spend even more time sanding and filling and sanding and filling and probably be a bit better at it than I am, but that's what I get for not being a professional at any of this. But I've also heard that there's different practices in different parts of the world. Here in Norway, they backroll everything, but in other places, they might just spray and not backroll any of it. So I'm curious to know if any of you guys do this for a living. Let me know down below what you recommend and what sort of practices that you guys follow wherever you might be working. But that will be it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'm super excited about being that much closer to having a living room that actually looks like a living room. Next up is flooring. We're gonna do some tiling and laying wood flooring, weed heated floors and everything. Make sure to subscribe and ring that bell if you don't wanna miss out on those next videos. As for now, thanks so much for watching and see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.